Hello, everybody. This is Noe with Walk with Yah Ministry, asking the question today: how effective are generic prayers against curses? And so, really, if we think about that question, there's kind of two different questions kind of combined into one. So, I want to take a few moments to try to deal with that. Now, if you like this question and you want to learn more about answers to questions like these, please feel free to subscribe on the button below, somewhere down there. I don't know where, but somewhere. You know where it's at. Now, the first part of this question is tackling the misconception that curses are no longer in effect after a person receives Yeshua, Jesus, as their personal Savior. So, and for that, let's jump back to 2 Samuel chapter 21. You probably know the story. So basically, there's a drought in the land for 3 years. Uh, King David is like, okay, 1 year, sure. 2 years, 3 years, Father, like, we have a problem. Like, kind of what's going on here? And so what ends up happening is God, says, hey, King Saul, kill some Gibeonites, and who made a covenant with the Israelites, and that goes all the way back to uh, Joshua chapter 9, which there's a lot that can be pulled out of this story, but I'm just going to kind of do the highlights here. And so the main point is that, think about this. Between King Saul and King David, the Bible doesn't say how many years, but there was some time that went in between those two. And so, and every year we know that the high priest would go into the Holy of Holies on the Day of Atonement, atoning for Israel. And that was assuredly happening between, these two times in King Saul and King David's life. Now think about this. The curse remained until David made a specific atonement. That's kind of interesting, isn't it? Okay, so how was that? So, that was easy, wasn't it? Okay, not so convinced there. Okay, well let's try this again another way. So, just in case you don't think that I'm doing some, biblical sleight of hand, and even if I am, I'm not doing it intentionally because I'm trying to be, real here. But let's do this another way. I need to address a verse that is often taken out of context, and that would be Galatians 3, verse 13, which says that the Messiah, Christ, redeemed us from the curse of the Torah, of the law, having become a curse for us. You probably have heard this verse before. Now, many people believe that this means that curses no longer apply to us once we accept Yeshua as our personal Savior, and therefore we don't really have a need for deliverance ministry. However, if we dig a little deeper, and as much as I would really like for that to be true, that's not really the case. So keep in mind that God still believes in curses. Now, why would I say this? Because the curses that he gave in Genesis 2, verse 17, and Genesis 3, verses 14 through 18, are still in effect post Yeshua, even after he was crucified. We still die the first death, right? Whether you believe in Yeshua or not. The curse of the Torah, of the law, is dying the second death, as stated in Revelations 21, verse 8. This is how I see it. So basically, curses still exist. For those of you that have gone through deliverance ministry will easily understand this because you've probably had to deal with some curses, whether those curses were explicit, whether they were very clear and intended, or implicit, meaning those curses were not so clear or were not directly attended, usually as the result of some sin action that initiated the curse without any type of, declarations, stating a curse is in effect. The second part of this question has to do with generic prayers. Now, hear me out. Generic prayer renunciations will only take care of generic, low level, sap sucking, yellow bellied demons, those that don't have a strong legal case to stay. Now, on the other hand, those demons that do have a strong legal case are not going to go away that easy. Now, think about this. What if they did? What would we learn, actually? If I sin and all I have to do is say some magical ritual prayer with some, maybe some dust on it or fairy dust or something, and hey, I'm good, what would I learn? So, in other words, we would be using Yeshua as a get out of jail free card with him serving us. And instead of us serving him, we would, in effect, kind of be his master. Like, we wouldn't really have to worry about obedience or anything like that, or grow in character. Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes Yeshua will take care of some deep-rooted issues very quickly, but many times it doesn't work that way. Deliverance is a process, not an event. It's actually a way of life, as the demons are constantly trying to get into us, to oppress us, to keep us from reaching our destiny. And I'm not trying to cause fear. I'm just letting you know the reality of how this works. Now, if this helps, think about it this way. If you go to a general practitioner, a doctor, he will take care of general problems. Now, for more complex problems, you need a specialist. It's the same way with spiritual warfare. So again, doctors, they deal with the physical, they deal with the body. You have other types of people that deal with the soul, and then deliverance ministers that deal with the soul and the spirit. But it's the same way with spiritual warfare. Deliverance ministers work on having the tools to go deeper to root out the sin problems. As when you start thinking about all the sins that you and your ancestors could have committed, that would give the demons the potential for a lot of access. So I just wanted to share this because I've heard a few people lately believe that just because they believe in Jesus, they can't have curses. And I know that sounds biblical, but when going deeper, we can just see that it really doesn't work that way. And I really do not want any of you to get caught up in that misnomer and that fallacy. So this is Noe with Walk with Yah Ministry. If you have a question, I'll do my best to answer it. And some type of spiritual warfare question, send it to Noe@walkwithyah.com. And just remember, your miracle could be next. Shalom.